Hey guys, it's Destiny back with another video, and you're watching the Mania channel on YouTube. I got a big anniversary today, not coming, but it's today. So this is the second time I've really done one of these This Day in History segments. If you would like me to keep doing these, please let me know in the comments, and I will gladly keep doing these. If there's a big anniversary, I'll cover it by itself, but if it's not very significant, I will, even if it's just personal to me, I'll cover it. And we got another 20-year anniversary of a debut that we'll be talking about in a couple months. So today is January 23rd, 2024. Well, on that same day, 40 years ago, Hulk Hogan won the WWE Championship and Hulkamania was born. Well, that's what some people say. A lot of people say that. The era of Hulkamania begins. I think he was using the Hulkamania thing in the NWA, wasn't he? Or not NWA, but AWA. And I just wanted to come up and talk about his career. I'm not going to bury him, so for those of you that are wanting me to come up here and be like, he's just that, he's this, he's that, I'm not going to do that today, because I have enough respect where I can appreciate what he did for the wrestling business. And yes, I know he's a controversial person, but he seems to be in a better place right now. He recently saved a teenage girl's life from a car wreck, and he remarried. So he seems to be doing fine. Like, nothing has really came out like bad about him. He was reinstated into the WWE Hall of Fame a couple years ago. That can be another video. Today, I'm just not gonna do it. I'm not gonna have it's 40-year anniversary of this, and I'm just not gonna bury him like a lot of you might want me to. I'm not saying you subscribers would like me to, but a lot of people don't like Hulk Hogan. I have my mixed feelings on him. I have my opinions on Hogan, but I'm not gonna deny that he changed the wrestling business in the 80s. And that's one thing that Vince McMahon can really be credited for too, because as much of just not a good person, or just a scummy person that Vince can be, he really did hit the nail on the head with this vision that he had for Hulk Hogan in the 80s. And I didn't grow up watching Hulk Hogan, so what you're gonna get from me today is just what I've heard and what I've seen growing up in the 2000s, and now into the 2020, we're now in the 2020s. So I'm a 2000s kid, so you're getting this from a young person's perspective. So don't expect me to be like, well, I remember when Hogan did this. Because the only times I can really say that I have memories of Hulk Hogan when he was in the wrestling business weekly on television was during his TNA run. And we're going to talk about that, because we're going to discuss all of the stuff that he's done. And it's not like he, this is normally something I do when somebody either dies or, I guess Hogan's retired, so it wouldn't really, I usually talk about their career or whatever, but we're going to do that today because I feel like it's the appropriate time to do this, to talk about Hulk Hogan and the cultural icon that he is and was. Well, I mean, he still is. He's still alive. He just turned 70 last year. But before we get any further, please hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell with a like drop. Run wild all over that freaking like button. Do it for Hulk Hogan, do it for Hulkamania, do it for Decimania, because I really appreciate you guys, because you guys are great for sticking with me. And yes, I can have some controversial opinions, or I might have some opinions that, they're just personal opinions. That's all it is. And I just ask that I not be heavily judged for my opinions. I mean, I'm a good person, or at least I try to be. No one's perfect, but I have my thoughts on these people as much as anybody else. And yes, I didn't grow up in that era of the Monday Night War. I missed a very significant period in wrestling. I was born the year before the Attitude Era really ended, with that Steve Austin heel turn, because that is when I believe it ended. For me, anyway. I grew up in the Ruthless Aggression era, the PG era, and now I grew up in the COVID era. I witnessed another company being born. And it's not just TNA and Ring of Honor, but AEW. And I'm just going to say this right now. Everything that I say in this video, or if I touch on something that maybe happened before my time and say that it's the greatest of all time, it's not because I'm agreeing with, or it's not because I'm trying to be like everybody else. It's because I truly think that. And yeah, I don't have the memories that a lot of the older fans have of Hulk Hogan. But what I do have is the knowledge of a lot of these matches that he had. Because I don't consider myself a wrestling historian. I'm just a fan. But, I like to study this stuff and know this stuff to tell you guys about and give my insight on this stuff. From, a lot of the younger fans get criticized because they didn't grow up in the Attitude Era. We'll get to Hogan in a minute, but I'm trying to make a point. They didn't grow up in the 80s or in the Attitude Era in the 90s where all this stuff was going on. So to older people, and I'm not knocking anybody when I say this, to the older fans, it's like, they don't know what they were missing. And yes, a lot of the younger fans are negative about a lot of this stuff. That's why I don't, even if I do have an opinion or strongly disagree with something, I'm not going to tear somebody down because they think that. It's their opinion. Why should that matter to me? It's not the end of the world if I disagree with somebody that the Ruthless Aggression era was, hold on, I'm trying to think here. It's not the end of the world if someone disagrees with me, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that disagree with me, that the Ruthless Aggression era was the greatest time in wrestling history. And yeah, I'm not knocking on the Attitude Era because I like going back and watching all that stuff. But I grew up in the Ruthless Aggression era, so I'm going to naturally think that that's the greatest era in wrestling. But you know what? I can attest to the Attitude Era being the greatest. And yeah, I don't have the memories of it, but I can still enjoy it. Can I not? Ugh. Anyway, let's talk about Hulk Hogan. So I hadn't seen this match until today. I know, you can't believe it. Like, because I watch a lot of stuff from the 90s and like early 2000s and even up to today. I don't cover a lot of stuff from the 80s, but I went on there and I was actually trying to find it. I couldn't find it earlier. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to be able to find this. And I went on Peacock and I was looking for it, and I went to the WWE section, and sure enough, there it was, right there, one of the first things I saw. So they put the episode of the old school. So if you want to go watch this, it's in season 13, episode 1, I believe, of WWE Old School. That's going to be all your Madison Square Garden stuff, all that stuff. So if you want to know how to find that stuff, and if you're thinking about getting Peacock and the network, and you want to know how to find some of this stuff, that's what you can do. I'm still trying to find a lot of the NWA stuff, but I think the NWA stuff, I don't think NWA was a company. I think it was territorial based, and all of these great matches took place throughout different promotions. So I want to go back and watch Dusty Rhodes stuff, Hulk Hogan stuff. But anyway, the date was January 24th or 3rd, 1984. Hulk Hogan defeated the Iron Sheik, who was a transitional champion, after defeating Bob Backlund, ending his reign. And Hulkamania was born. He feuded with the likes, in the 80s, he feuded with the likes of Big John Studd, Roddy Piper, King Kong Bundy, Jake the Snake Roberts, Andre the Giant, Paul Orndorff, Macho Man Randy Savage. There was somebody else. There's other people I'm forgetting. Hang on. Bobby Heenan. And he was the biggest, next to Andre the Giant, I guess. I guess Ric Flair was kind of there, but in terms of WWE, it was Andre and Hulk. And they had wrestled a couple times before. And this was the first Hulk Hogan match I ever saw. You guys probably know where I'm going with this. It's one of the biggest matches of all time. I still use it in the intro. Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan from WrestleMania 3, which I'm going to review that show in a couple months. So if you want to see that, stay tuned. But Hulk Hogan and Andre for the title. Andre was getting up there with his, not even in his age, but he was not in his prime physically anymore. And he was getting up there, and it'd be just a couple years later and he would be gone. But Hulk Hogan won. Andre passed the torch to him, I guess. I don't think you really needed to pass the torch to him because he already picked it up and ran with it. But nonetheless, it wasn't much of a match. It was a 16-minute match. It was longer than I remember it being when I first saw it, because I thought it was just like 5 or 6 minutes. I guess it's because I was so excited and I was hanging on every thing that they did that it just went by faster. And then when I got older, I watched it back and I'm like, oh wow, they almost went like 20 minutes. It was a 16-minute match, really, but not counting entrances. But that solidified Hogan as the top babyface. Andre turned heel. They had the rematch on that primetime NBC special, and Andre won it back and gave it to, I think he tried to give it to Ted DiBiase, and that's when the WrestleMania 4 thing came with Macho Man. And Hogan came out and helped them win the belt, and then they had their implosion. Hogan did a lot. I will say that. He had, I have the LJN figure of Hogan. I don't know which one it is. I'll show that off one day, because I have a couple LJNs. Not many, because they're freaking expensive, and I'm not going to try to track the rest of them down. There's ones that I'll pay for, but there's other ones where I'm just like, ugh, no. Like, those LJNs, even loose, cost thousands of dollars, depending on what condition they're in. And for those of you that don't know what the LJN figures are, you younger kids may be watching this, they're big rubber wrestling action figures, but they don't have any articulation at all. So you thought we have the elites now that are articulated, and we have Jack's figures, which Jack's specific honestly is my favorite wrestling action figure line. Them and I guess Marble Toy Biz from TNA, but those are hit and miss. But he had action figures, posters, t-shirts, anything. I think he even had like a brand of cereal or something. He had ice cream bars. Remember the WWE ice cream bars that CM Punk was talking about in the Pipe Bomb promo several years ago? Those. He had the Coliseum video collections. They had like a pop-up version of Hogan in those. He was a cultural icon, and I'm not going to deny that. I don't remember any of that stuff. I don't remember any of the Hulkamania stuff or the Hollywood Hogan NWO stuff. What I do remember, and this is going to make a lot of people mad when I say this, is the TNA stuff. Which, as a 10, 11-year-old kid, you thought it was cool to see him in there with Sting and Kurt Angle and Jeff Hardy and AJ Styles and Ric Flair. Well, he's been there with Ric Flair for years, but you get what I mean. As a kid, you don't really think about that kind of stuff. And yeah, I kind of like going back and watching some of that stuff still, even though it didn't really do anything for TNA, but it was a significant time in my life where I was just getting into TNA, and Hulk Hogan was there. Him, Eric Bischoff. Eric was kind of just leaving, because I didn't actually start watching TNA on a weekly basis until 2012. It was a few months after I had met Jeff Hardy and James Storm at that live event. And then Hogan was on there. He was the general manager. He was there through the whole Aces and Eights storyline, which was one of my favorite storylines. Yeah, they could have done some other things differently, but that's another video for another time. I've actually got a couple fantasy booking ideas for TNA, and one of them happens to be Jeff Hardy's heel turn that they did when Jeff Hardy aligned himself with Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan, which, kind of looking back now, doesn't really make any sense. I mean, because yeah, I can see Hogan and Bischoff, but what are you doing? I'm not like, I didn't hate it, but looking back now, it kind of didn't make any sense. And even back then, when people were telling me about it, it kind of was like, what is this? And Hogan, yeah, he came into TNA. He probably should have advertised it more. And this is more of a Dixie Carter thing. I'm not blaming Hogan as much for this, but it's a Dixie Carter thing where I'm just like, okay, you promised a big surprise, and you said Hogan's gonna come in, and you basically just told everybody to deal with it. Like, that's not how you have a talent meeting, Dixie. I'm sorry. You came off like Vince in that. You're not trying to be Vince. I don't want you to try to be like Vince. I want you to be Dixie Carter. Like, what are you trying to do, Dixie? And Hogan came in, and the first thing he did, and this is a couple things, and I'm not gonna bury Hogan. I'm just saying a couple things that he did. He got rid of the 6-sided ring, which a lot of people didn't like, and it was, I think, was it the Genesis pay-per-view? The Genesis 2010 pay-per-view? I have a couple of figures from the TNA era that are considered Genesis style ones. I have Jeff Jarrett, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Sting, and Kurt Angle, I believe. And I guess if you want to count Bobby Lashley, because I used Bobby with my TNA figures a lot when I was a kid. But, you know, they got rid of the 6-sided ring. They brought in Eric Bischoff. And a lot of people thought they were trying to be WCW. Which I could see in later years, going back and watching some of the stuff. And I don't even watch much WCW, though I'm gonna try to, because I want to review some WCW stuff. But he did a lot for the wrestling business. Say what you want about him, and I have my thoughts on Hogan, like everybody else. I'm glad to see he's doing a little better when it comes to being a respectable person. And we might as well just talk about this now. I was going to talk about this tomorrow on Wrestle World Wednesday, but since we're on the subject of Hulk Hogan, might as well talk about this now. There was a video package on Raw last night, on Monday Night Raw, of them showing all the different highlights of Hogan's career to celebrate the 40 years of Hulkamania. And he's kind of teased that he was going to be in this year's Royal Rumble match. He put over a lot of people in that video package. He put over Cody, Roman Reigns, Bayley, Seth Rollins. There was somebody else. Rhea Ripley, maybe? I don't remember who else, but those are the ones that I remember him putting over. It is kind of suckish that he retired in TNA. I mean, not knocking on TNA, but I figured he would retire in WWE. Same with Macho Man Randy Savage. Sting is getting to go out the right way. Savage, his last television match was in TNA at Turning Point it was him, Jeff Hardy, and AJ Styles versus Jeff Jarrett, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall. And now, I think Scott Hall and Macho Man are now gone. So, you always want these guys to have a good last match. I don't like what they did to Kurt Angle. That bothers me, because Kurt deserved better than what he got. Edge is going to end his career on his terms. Ric Flair should have just called it quits in 2008. And that's the thing, Ric Flair and TNA, that's, the most memorable thing he did in TNA was the woo-off with Jay Lethal. But I'm sure this was cool for AJ and them. But when you're watching Ric Flair and AJ Styles, when you're watching AJ go out there with a Rolex watch and robe and all this stuff, and he's strutting around the ring like Ric Flair, it's like, this is not AJ Styles. What is this? This is not AJ Styles. Why are you trying to make him look like Ric Flair? I'd imagine that was a Vince Russo thing or Dixie Carter thing. I don't know. But the memorable thing he did in TNA was the woo-off. Hogan, I like how he kind of endorsed Abyss. That was kind of fun. You had Hulkamania and you coined Abyss. What you gonna do when Abyssomania runs wild on you or something like that. That was kind of fun. I kind of liked that a little bit. That was kind of fun. Let me see. I'm trying to think of anything else that I remember from Hogan. No, all I remember is his TNA run. And then he came back in 2014, right around WrestleMania 30, I think. And he was going to host WrestleMania that year. That was the year the streak ended. Oh, that's another 10-year anniversary. I'll have to review that WrestleMania, I think. I think instead of doing... I'm trying to think of which one to... Because I don't want to do too many of them. But I thought about just doing the milestone WrestleManias. WrestleMania 3. You know what? Let me think about that. Because I kind of want to review WrestleMania 30 now. But... Yeah, I'm not going to deny the negative stuff that Hogan did, but I'm not going to bury him today. Yeah, I'm in my 20s, but I'm not going to just sit here and bury somebody just because. Even Vince. I give Vince his props when he deserves it. And I can't stand Vince McMahon. More than I can't stand Hulk Hogan. I actually respect Hogan a little bit more. And that's saying something considering all the stuff that he's done over the years. But, from what I've heard, he regrets it and he wants to make good on those promises. Or he wants to make up for what he did, so I've heard. That's good if he, is doing that. Let's see some improvement. No, he just needs to enjoy the rest of his life. Without, all these black eyes on these blemishes on his career. But as far as him showing up in the Royal Rumble match, I don't know about that. Maybe. I would be more down for a WrestleMania appearance than a Royal Rumble appearance. I guess if you want to have him out there for a few minutes and have Gunther or somebody throw him out, maybe that would be kind of fun. But I don't know. It's like Ric Flair. I don't know if I want to see it. No, he had that match with Shawn Michaels at SummerSlam in 05, which Shawn should have went over in that match. I'll just say that now. He had the next one against Randy Orton at SummerSlam 06. And then he wouldn't come back until 2014 to host WrestleMania 30. And then that whole thing about the racist rant he went on came out. Yeah, he shouldn't have said the things he said, but it also shouldn't have been recorded. But that's where I kind of feel bad for him. And he even admitted it, yeah, I said some stuff. But, I mean, like I said, I'm not gonna bury him too much because of that, because he shouldn't have said the stuff, but I don't think it was fair to tape him either without his consent. Otherwise, those things would have never been released. And hopefully he's found peace with himself, and hopefully he's found a sort of a redemption, if that's the case. I've heard he's a Christian now. So I've heard. He's saved the life of that kid a couple weeks ago. It was on the news, so he didn't make this up. It was on the news. A friend was with him. Hogan was in a band before he started wrestling, and I guess the Briscoes, Jerry and Jack, not Jay and Mark, but Jerry and Jack Briscoe, discovered him playing at a bar in Florida. I think his band name was Ruckus. And I haven't heard anything from them, but he was in a band. He was the bass player. And that's how he got discovered, and he began his wrestling career in 1977. So, "47 years ago. But despite all the negative stuff, he also made a very big impact on a lot of kids. I know there's a lot of Hulk Hogan fans, probably, that still look up to him and still respect him. I haven't been alive as long as a lot of these people, so I can't really say much about anything negative that he's done. I don't know. Same with Vince, but there's stuff's coming about him. I don't know. It's a complicated thing, but Hogan was never one of my favorites, but I still respected his work. I'll watch his stuff. It's like Goldberg. I don't like him much, but I can watch his stuff and be like, oh, that's impressive. Goldberg was probably better physically in his prime than Hogan was. But, Goldberg was pretty good too. Goldberg made a very big impact on his generation as well. I mean, I guess never say never. Terry Funk, he got knee replacements and he wrestled till his mid-70s. Mid to late 70s. A couple years ago. Up until a couple years ago. And then he died last year. So, I mean, I guess it could happen. Hogan coming back for one more match. I don't guess it's impossible, but I don't know if I want to see it. Anyway, I don't know if I'd have him booked at WrestleMania 40, because that's going to tick a lot of people off. That's going to take away from, not Hogan, but Cody Rhodes' story. And we'll talk about Cody Rhodes and CM Punk tomorrow on Wrestle World Wednesday. So stay tuned for that. And there's some more news that we'll get into. But as far as Hogan making a Royal Rumble appearance, fine, I guess. That'd be kind of cool, I guess. To see Hogan in real time, like I did Austin. That would be kind of cool. But who would you put him in there with? It'd have to be a Royal Rumble spot where, like, Gunther or somebody could throw him out to get heat. And I mean, let's just talk about this for a minute. And this is something I forgot to mention earlier. There was a tease on the Raw Homecoming episode in 2005 when they were going back to the USA Network. Hogan and Austin were both on that show. Steve Austin. And that was one of the biggest matches that they wanted to see during the Monday Night Wars. And I can see why. They both impacted their decade and their generation. You know, it's funny because Hogan was the biggest heel in the 90s, besides maybe Vince McMahon. And Austin was becoming the biggest babyface or anti-hero. So they were both kind of the big stars of their respective companies at the same time. And we never got that match. The closest we ever could have got to it when both of them were still wrestling. Actively wrestling, not after Austin or Hogan retired or anything, was 2002. I know how much everybody loves that match with The Rock and Hogan, and it's fine. It's fine. The fans made that match. The fans made that match. But it should have been Hogan and Austin, I feel. And they teased it, and they didn't tell Austin that Hogan was in the building. But now just think about this for a second. And I'm not saying do this at WrestleMania or anything, because you don't really need to do this. But what if? Just think about this for a second. What if it were to happen in today's age? Do you think people would still... I mean, this is just a derogatory question, or this is something that you guys can think of amongst yourselves. You don't have to answer this in the comments or anything. Or you can if you want to. Doesn't matter. What do you think people would think if this match were to actually happen in real time in today's day and age here in 2024? Do you think people would still want to see it? Or do you think that, people would be like, Hogan ain't got nothing. Austin's a little older. I don't know. Austin and Punk, I think, would be a little bit of a better match. A lot better, actually, because Punk's still going. Hogan hasn't wrestled a proper match since 2011. They teased it in the Aces and Eights storyline, but it didn't go anywhere because they beat him up. And that's how they got out of that one. I don't know. Put the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal back on WrestleMania. Put that back on the main card. Or have that as like instead of doing your normal typical kickoff, have some matches on the pre-show. Doing a 1 hour kickoff, have or how many you doing the 2 hour kickoffs? Whatever, how long it is. Have the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal on that. If you don't want it on the main card, just put it on the pre-show. That way it's not just relegated to SmackDown, because I feel like that's kind of disrespecting Andre's memory. We'll see what Triple H does this year. But as far as my personal thoughts on Hogan, I think he has charisma. And you think of where he maybe got that from. He got that from guys like Superstar Billy Graham, Jesse Ventura, Dusty Rhodes. I think maybe got it from Superstar too. I don't remember. I don't know. They all influenced each other in some way or another. But I'm surprised they never really had a match. I don't think they did anyway. Superstar Billy Graham and Hulk Hogan? Did they ever have a match? 5:14 p.m. I don't know. Probably find out, but can't. Superstar's another one. He's controversial, but like to speak ill of the dead. I don't really like to speak ill of the dead. But even when Vince dies, I don't think I'm gonna be jumping up and down and screaming. I really doubt that. That would just be very cold. I don't like Vince, but even, the day he dies, I'm gonna be up here and I'm gonna do the video. And, just one of those things where even when Hulk Hogan or Ric Flair, or the day's gonna come when these people aren't gonna be here anymore. We all gotta face those facts, That's the one thing that's guaranteed for all of us, that one day we're all not going to be here. But you gotta live life to the fullest, and you gotta live life how you want to live life and do the right thing. Don't just go around committing crimes or anything, but you gotta live every day like it's your last, because you don't know when it's gonna be. And guys like Hogan and Flair, who have been here for decades, they should just be acknowledging their careers and should be just enjoying themselves with all the money they made and stuff. But in the case of Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan, sometimes maybe they get a little bit too arrogant or a little bit too full of themselves. And it's sad, because they shouldn't be doing that. Because I respect both of those guys. Flair's the better wrestler, obviously. Maybe the better promo cutter. I don't know. But Hogan was definitely the bigger pop culture icon than Rick. My favorite 80s wrestler was actually Jake the Snake Roberts. Jake Roberts, Dusty Rhodes, and Ric Flair, and Sting, and Roddy Piper were my top 5. Or are my top 5. I still need to get You know what? I don't have any of Hulk Hogan's DVDs. I don't have any of his stuff from the 80s on DVD. I have some of his WCW stuff from, Nitro and on the Goldberg DVD. And then I have a couple of matches from when he came back in 2002. But that's it. I don't have any of his actual DVDs that have any of those iconic moments on them. I don't have any of those. I'm actually kind of shocked. I'm trying to find them, but they're going for a lot, I imagine. I don't have Roddy Piper's DVD either, or Dusty Rhodes. The only one I have, actually, I don't think I have Sting's either. The only one I have from the 80s, okay, no, I have both of Ric Flair's DVDs, and I have Jake Roberts. And it's a shame, too, that Terry Funk never got his own DVD. He worked with Jerry Jarrett, Jeff Jarrett's dad, who he lost last year. And he wasn't just Hulk Hogan. He was the Incredible Hulk Hogan for a while, but I think they had to drop that because of the Marvel character. But say what you want about Hulk Hogan. I have my thoughts, certainly, but that's not gonna stop me from watching his matches. Same with Benoit. I mean, those of us that are fans of him, like I said, aren't gonna forget the work that he did. And yeah, I grew up watching all of Benoit's stuff back. I mean, I was close in that time frame. He died a year before I started actually watching wrestling full time and actually discovered it. But, that's the thing. I can respect these people even after they're gone and after they've retired. even if I'm a little younger, well, a lot younger in this case, but figured I'd do that video for you fans of Hulk Hogan, and I mean, okay, I guess I'm more of a fan of him than I'd like to admit to a lot of people. I like him, he's just not my favorite. I wasn't one of those people jumping up out of my seats when he came out and stuff. That was more like, for me, those people were like Edge and Rey Mysterio, the Hardy Boys, especially Jeff Hardy, AJ, did I say CM Punk? People like that. Chris Jericho. I know, another controversial one, but what can he do? But Hulk Hogan left a lasting legacy that no matter what he does, there's going to be those people that still respect him and are going to enjoy watching his stuff no matter what. Because it's hard to not watch someone who defined an entire generation of wrestling fans and kickstarted one of the biggest boom periods in wrestling. That's undeniable. It is. People today still have, are influenced. I can see a little bit of Hulk Hogan and Cody. I can see a little bit of Hulk Hogan and John Cena, even Roman Reigns a little bit. I can see that stuff. Despite what you think of him, despite what you love him, hate him, respect him, don't respect him at all, at least if you don't like them, you have to respect them to some degree. And yeah, I even respect Vince a little bit. I don't deny what he did for the wrestling business. I just think he got too carried away with it and just all this stuff happened and he had to be forced out because he wasn't providing a good product and he was a liability. He became a liability. But that's another thing, the street fight that Hogan had with Vince. That was the second match that I ever saw from him. First one from Vince. Vince doesn't wrestle that much. And here's the thing about that, what I liked about that match so much, is that neither of these guys were in their prime. They were both in their mid-50s. I think Vince was going into his 60s at the time. But here's Hogan, who's past his physical prime and probably already has prosthetic knees, if he didn't get them later. Here's Vince, who never really wrestled that much to begin with. He wasn't a regular on-screen wrestler. He wrestled the occasional match, mostly street fights, and that's it. There was a cage match with Austin, and street fights with Shane, and Ric Flair, and Shawn Michaels, and Bret Hart, and all them, but the Hogan match was actually better than the Bret match, and I like Bret Hart a lot more than I like Hulk Hogan. But that match was good because it had blood, it had story, it had, that's what I like. Even if the match on paper doesn't look good, I like a good story. If you have me invested in a match so much that I'm throwing logic out there, or not that logic, but get me to believe the fact that these guys are not in their physical prime. Get me to believe that this is the greatest thing ever, and I will freaking watch it. That's why I didn't believe the thing with Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns a couple years ago at WrestleMania 38. I didn't care for it. I didn't like the match at all. I didn't care for it, and I didn't buy that it was the greatest match of all time. You know? And Hulkamania runs wild. That's part of the reason I have this channel. Well, not really. At first, it really didn't have anything to do with Hulk Hogan, and then I started kind of thinking, oh wow, Decimania. But like, I wasn't the one that came up with the name either. That credit goes to somebody else. But Decimania. I mean, I guess there is a little bit of me that kind of was influenced by Hulk Hogan. If you really think about it, my channel name's kind of one of the reasons why. Not gonna steal all Hulk Hogan's catchphrases or anything, but I think Decimania sounds pretty cool. But those are my thoughts on Hulk Hogan, and I certainly respect his career and love going back and watching a lot of that stuff, even if a lot of it was just like, I don't know if I want to go back and watch the Starrcade match with Sting or not, but I'm not going to deny the cultural icon that he is. And it's going to be a sad day, even for me, when he dies. I'll admit that. Because that time is going to come, ladies and gentlemen. You're not guaranteed. You don't. I don't know what your religious beliefs are or anything like that, and that's not what I'm here to talk about, but I think we go into a better place than this. Because sometimes life just sucks. But you know what? We get through it. We suck it up and get through it. Even if we don't want to. Yeah, we're stubborn. But you know what? Sometimes being stubborn is a detriment. Sometimes it can work in your favor. You just gotta play your cards right. But that's all for me today. Tomorrow we'll be back up here with Wrestle World Wednesday, episode 17, I believe. Oh, and boy, do we have some news. We have some news. So the rest of the week is going to look like this. Wrestle World Wednesday, TNA review on Thursday, Royal Rumble predictions on Friday, maybe a DVD review or something, maybe, I don't know, on Saturday. I don't know, I might take Saturday off. And Royal Rumble review on Sunday, because I'll be watching it. I might try, if anything big happens, I might try to tweet it or do kind of a reaction or something. I don't know, I might live react just to the Royal Rumble match itself. I don't know, probably gonna get in trouble because I'll have to use headphones. You know what, I'll just tweet about it. I'll just tweet it and then because I don't want to do watch-alongs just yet. Because one, I don't have the equipment. Number two, I can't see the screen. So I have to have headphones in or just have it down really low to where it's not going to pick it up, but I can still hear it. I don't know, guys. I don't know how it's going to work. I might have to get a team for that. I don't have a team yet. I want to focus on building subscribers and kind of growing my audience a bit more before I can do that. But once I'm able to get to that point where I can stream, I would definitely do watch-alongs. And I will definitely be looking forward to that. And y'all go watch some Hulk Hogan stuff. I might go do that later. I might go try to find some matches on YouTube or something. I can't believe I don't have any of his DVDs. I don't know why I didn't. Oh, I can't really find them. I'm trying to find them or something. I haven't looked for a while, but go find some Hulk Hogan stuff, whether it be TNA or, watch his 80s stuff, because it's really good. But, I know there's stuff that I missed, like the Ultimate Warrior match, but you all know what I'm talking about. Y'all don't need me to tell you how great that match was. But like they made up before Warrior died, so that's good. Hopefully Hogan can turn his life around and kind of do more stuff that in his later years that maybe kind of alleviates the pressure of everything else that he did or didn't do. I just want him to enjoy the rest of his life without all this negativity. And, if he wants to have one more match, I'm not going to be disappointed, but I don't know. Mainly for health reasons, I don't want to see it. Like Ric Flair. But that's what I've got for you all this week. I might continue it. I might do a top 10 Hulk Hogan matches or something Saturday. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But that's all I got for you guys today. If you're a big Hulk Hogan fan, please hit that like button. If you grew up watching Hulk Hogan, please hit that like button. I'll tell you what, if we get more than 10 views, if we get over 10 views, or 10 views or more by Saturday, I would do a top 10 Hulk Hogan matches video. But that's the goal. You gotta get 10 views, not even likes, just views. We're just gonna be starting small. Even if it's the same person viewing it, if we get 10 views or more, I'll do a Hulk Hogan top 10 matches video on Saturday. How's that sound? But you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy NXT tonight. I don't watch NXT much, though I might start because I want to see Brian Pillman Jr. But also enjoy AEW tomorrow. I'll be up here with you for the TNA stuff. And then I'll see you on Friday. So that's what my schedule's going to be looking like the rest of this week anyway. But on Sunday, I'll be here with the review, and I'll see y'all tomorrow, the rest of the world Wednesday, and you guys have a good rest of your night. And do me a favor and become a Decimaniac today. Subscribe to the channel. Yeah, sorry. Whoops. Had to. Become a Decimaniac, subscribe to the channel, and run wild in the comments. Just don't put anything too negative. Share some of your memories of Hulk Hogan. Do that. And so if y'all were Hogan fans in the 80s and stuff, or even in the 90s, or maybe if you're a younger fan and you seen some of his stuff, it doesn't matter. Put some memories of Hogan. And I've already done some of mine, so I want to hear from you guys now in the comments. And I'll see you all tomorrow. You guys enjoy the rest of your night, and be safe. Be good to each other. Peace.